For the thousands in the comments and the millions listening on YouTube Premium. Let's get ready to cut Nitro!
Hello and welcome to the first inaugural episode of Nitro with a K.
Boom! Ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da. Wah, 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 wah!
Explosions and Warner Bros. Backlot. All the good stuff. Reflections of Sting in buildings. All the stuff you know and love. So we're gonna watch every episode of Nitro ever. Please welcome my co-hosts.
Hello, I'm Jordan Olds, and that's Rob Pasbani.
I'm Rob Pasbani. I'm WCW expert Rob Pasbani. Self-proclaimed WCW expert Rob Pasbani.
Acclaimed.
Self-proclaimed and acclaimed
By me.
Yeah. And I'm Jordan Olds. I am the WCW novice. I feel like I've only seen maybe like 2 WCW things in my day.
We're watching this through your eyes, Jordan, because we want to see how you interpret it with your 2022 wrestling eyes. Because I experienced this, as I'm sure Colin has, as it was happening live, week by week.
Yeah, that's the fun part here. Is that I feel like Rob is Josh Brolin, I'm Benicio del Toro, and Jordan, you are Emily Blunt. This is Sicario, and we're seeing this through your eyes here, and we're the seasoned hardened vets of war, and we're seeing these. Sometimes it's beautiful, you know, and then sometimes you're seeing what you've seen, what Rob and I have been through many times. And,
now, what's exciting for me personally is this first year of Nitro. I didn't watch it live because I did not have cable. My building back in the day, back in the 90s, not every apartment building in New York City was wired for cable. So I would only follow WCW through their weekly syndicated show, which would be on Saturday nights, 1 a.m. right after SNL, WCW Worldwide. And that's how I kind of kept up with all the stories. And my friend would tape the pay-per-views for me. So in a way, there is something new about this because I haven't actually watched like segment by segment until we get about a year into it, like once the NWO is established.
And most people weren't watching this to begin with.
Yes,
you know?
this is such a great little moment in time because this is a moment where both WWF and WCW were arguably at their worst creatively. Like, we're about to witness the worst Hulk Hogan storylines you have ever seen.
Oh my God.
We're going to witness the crowd turn on Hulk Hogan and like him think he could try to do a heel turn while still being the same Hulk Hogan and then fail and go back until finally figuring out the NWO character. So it's going to be great.
That I did not know because you're right. The crowd, even on this episode, is not into Hulk Hogan. He's nuts.
He's you know, you got Sting and Flair wrestling before him who are like that crowd is like, these are our guys for life.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you got fucking Hogan and Big Bubba, and they're just like, we saw this match a year ago on a different show.
Yeah.
Rob, I do love you bringing up old New York cable because that is the real shit. I had the only wrestling that I knew of when this was going on. Like, I knew about wrestling in early 2000s when my little cousin was really into wrestling, and he was in the same situation. Like, they had an illegal cable box. It was either you didn't have cable or you had the thing where everyone in the apartment had in the building had illegal cable.
Cable boy.
Then you had the rich friend who would tape the pay-per-views for you. There was always an aunt or a rich friend whose mom gave VHSs to the little community. I remember that. I'm aware. Colin, what about your how did you watch all this?
So, as you know, as we've spoken about, he's right up there, but I got into wrestling via my vibrating Scott Hall action figure.
Classic.
So it was like, first thing I needed to do was know who this guy was, this vibrating guy who looks this cool. I got to know his story.
NWO era Scott Hall?
Yes. This is a WCW licensed vibrating Scott Hall. Actually.
Toy Biz, baby.
Yeah. So I got it from a neighbor who taped everything.
Oh, nice.
So so even this first year of Nitro, I got to see eventually on shitty little VHS tapes with commercials and everything.
Wow.
Which are an
Very
amazing
lucky.
time capsule on their own.
Yeah.
But this, I haven't, I was a small lad then. So this, me going back and doing this, I started a couple months ago just going through back and watching them. And they're still fresh in my mind. So there's definitely stuff I don't remember and maybe missed.
Right.
But there's a lot that's coming back to me as it's happening. And it's appalling.
This is gonna be, for me, I'm fresh. Like I have seen 2 WCW pay-per-views. I have seen Halloween Havoc, but only the Eddie Guerrero Rey Mysterio match, because when you're first getting into wrestling, the people make you watch that. You got to see it.
Yeah, they'll kill you.
And it lives up. Of course, it's maybe the greatest wrestling match of all time or whatever. Or like, but then the other thing that I've seen is Starrcade 1997, because to me, the most interesting thing that ever happened in wrestling is that Sting storyline and the complete kerfuffle of it. Mm-hmm. That is the most only in wrestling thing. Like, it's the most powerful example of something that can only exist in wrestling. So I'm obsessed with it.
The biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
Going like the only way it could have gone to not be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
pure greed, pure selfishness.
Yeah.
So chaotic. So good. It's selfish in the goofiest way ever.
What's funny is like we're doing this show week to week, which means we'll be talking about that in about 2 years.
Yeah, like we're so far away from that.
So
Even.
stay
longer.
tuned for the next 2 years, and we'll talk about Starrcade 97. But tonight we are here to talk about the first ever Monday Nitro. It was April 9th.
No,
1995, or was that September 4th? I'm
September
looking
4th.
at some Europe. September 4th, 1995, in Bloomington, Minnesota, at the beautiful Mall of America.
Now you might be asking, why did they pick September 4th? Could it be the fall season? It's because Monday Night Raw, which was a staple at that time, would always be off the air on Labor Day weekend for the, I believe, the dog show. The Westminster Dog Show. So WCW knew they would have an unopposed Monday to get in there and make waves. And make waves they did. And by the way, this whole thing, allegedly, it was Ted Turner's idea because he brought in Eric Bischoff. Bischoff was sucking as the president of WCW. Well, not sucking, but like the company was still losing money. And but Bischoff got the budget to bring Hogan in, which was a big coup for Turner and for the executives. And then Turner basically said, "What do we need to do to compete with Vince McMahon and win?" And allegedly, Bischoff claims that he said, "We gotta, he's on Monday nights. We got to be on Monday nights." And he was like, "Let's do it. Hey, give him an hour on TNT," which was the more prestigious channel. The TNT was really, really big. TNT was like free HBO at the time because they would be the first cable network, free cable network that would air like big movies. Like, 8 months, like 6 months after it's on HBO, then 2 months after that, it's on TNT. So, and then this was like, they were throwing it on there. So it was a really, really big deal for them.
Yeah, like TV debuts of movies at the time, this time were like an event.
Yes, because
there was
only rental stores. There wasn't Netflix.
So
there was
Terminator
no streaming.
2 being on TNT for the first time would get like a 10-0 rating.
Yeah.
And so like wrestling, of course, putting wrestling before or after that, that's a huge get.
Yeah. Absolutely. It makes total sense. And yes, I love like TV lore. Like I loved, like I found out about the Sting kerfuffle because I'm obsessed with just, I listened to the Eric Bischoff podcast talking about all this because I love cocaine TV stories.
Yeah.
And he is like the king.
The king of cocaine.
The king of cocaine TV show ideas. Like him talking about the concept of live television is astounding.
And it's so funny, like how far off he gets, because it'll be like, Eric,
Oh my God.
Eric, why is this guy coming out with a corn cob? And he'll get into like, well, Zane Breslov was the president at this time, and he was like, really into corn, and like he'll get so far outside of it that he won't remember what he's talking about.
It's
that is
funny.
the fun stuff. Yeah,
It's fascinating. I love like that type of chaotic energy, and it seems like this is a show that is built on nothing but that.
Oh,
and
totally.
you can tell immediately by it being set in the Mall of America, which I loved, by the way.
That's what I loved
It's
about WCW. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, they always just pick these weird locations. And he said the reason he picked the mall is because nobody was coming to WCW live events at this time. And he wanted to show like a happening thing where there's people. And so he figured a free show in a mall would be a good idea.
Can I tell you my favorite part about the mall setting is the escalator?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Dude,
Yes. The best.
people just like
the fact that the entire show, people are watching the show like this, like just everyone's just got to go in a circle, and it's just
Yeah, I love
so
that show. I kept wondering how many people were just like looping around just to get good views.
I know.
Of the action.
there's some
no
lore.
one's pushing. It's just people
Yeah.
accepting their spot.
There,
It's
there's-
so funny.
There's some lore behind the Mall of America choice
Yeah?
that
Oh,
it
what
was
else?
like linked to Pastamania,
Oh, that's right.
obviously, which we'll talk about. But also, there's more to it. Like some creative director at Pastamania or in the mall, allegedly, Hogan was banging at the time,
Oh.
and like there was
What?
there was a whole lawsuit and everything. So like Hogan is,
I didn't even know
and
this.
this is alleged. I don't know the full details here. You'll have to listen to somebody else. But
Banging
like
the owner
Hogan,
of a mall.
like the
Like the marketing director?
yeah, like the marketing director who's like looking for new people to come and rent storefronts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some suit that is like settled. And Hogan pushed for Mall of America here, as lore says.
I love it.
And
I
that's just
love
it's the best.
this. Oh my God, that's such a fucking funny person for the most famous wrestler in the world to be like hooking up with and getting in a jam with,
Yeah.
like,
Like
listen,
it was a whole thing.
I got a solution for us, and it'll get me out of a couple of jams.
Mall of America first episode. Let's do it.
So,
Dude.
Jordan, I want to ask you, what did you think of the intro and like the graphics?
My takeaway, I think, from this entire thing is I've never watched something that felt, I've never watched any wrestling until now that felt like exactly what I thought wrestling was when I was a child. This entire show is like exactly what the first wrestling I ever saw is the Giant in The Waterboy. You know what I'm saying? And this feels exactly like the character from The Waterboy would show up on this show and be completely
Yeah, that wasn't
In place.
far off from like WCW creative at the time.
like
Captain Insano?
movies that had wrestling in them felt exactly like this. And I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's what
I
that
think
was the charm.
the intro is kind of ahead of its time.
I was
It's
going to say
sick.
it does not at all look dated. Like especially like the lower third graphics, like the lower third
awesome.
graphics are still modern. Like
They're
I
really impressive.
Yeah, I
They're
was always
modern.
impressed.
they are modern for wrestling.
For wrestling, yes. They're modern cheesy. Yeah, no. But like,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, this is such a late 90s aesthetic. Like, if you look at the raw graphics of the time,
Crazy.
yeah, like they look so corny. First of all, they're using stencil, which is like the most basic fucking font.
Yeah.
But whereas this, I think it's a custom WCW font they're using for the typeface for every
dude.
wrestler. It doesn't exist.
Some
great.
graphic designer, which was probably like a niche gig at the time, like
Yeah.
they spent money on that. I bet WWF saw that and they were like, they spent money on the intro? God, these
Yeah.
guys are crazy.
The intro is great. I loved it. It definitely, to me, it definitely feels 90s, but in a good way. And like late 90s aesthetic is also back in at time of recording, so it feels like it fits in perfectly, and it's just
That's
it's
a great
hitting
point.
on all. It's hitting on all the it's hitting nostalgia and current at the same time, but this feels like the best wrestling intro graphic I've ever seen, maybe. And I love that you pointed out stencil as like a stencil is like the Another Danger font of the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
We font humor.
Love
That's what
font
you're gonna
humor.
get here.
Like
I
one time Twitching Tongues accidentally used the Angry Birds font on a shirt, and I've never personally recovered. But let's get into Nitro here. The show starts with, say what you will about Bischoff, say what you will about his antics, his crazy rants. The cruiserweight division of WCW is something that was incredible throughout its entire run, and the show generally starts with a legit banger. And in this case, what a banger it was.
They be banging on their heads. These boys be fucking up some Hurricane Ranas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They were throwing them, but they were landing on their ears
Well,
every time.
This is Brian Pillman a little past his high flying prime. He's like, they're still calling him Flying Brian, but he's barely flying.
Sure.
And like
Moving Brian.
And what's so funny is like I had just watched an older match that they had when WCW had the light heavyweight title, the precursor to the cruiserweight title, and they had some banger matches. This is the weakest of their matches, but with that said, I still think they delivered, and it was kind of wild watching it in 2022 because there was one point where they were doing like crazy hot spots on the outside that I was like, this is where a "This is awesome" chant would go, but it's 1995. There's no "This is awesome" chants.
No. It's
And that was
super
great.
modern. It's like a very influential, just in terms of what they're doing. Super modern. Flying Brian versus Jushin Thunder Liger. I don't think we ever just officially stated that, which is that's the first match in Nitro history.
Yep.
Insane. Jordan, what did you think of this as a first time viewer?
I love Jushin Thunder Liger. I've seen him do stuff outside of WCW. I've seen him like his recent stuff, his NXT thing. I've also seen some like old New Japan whatever stuff. And he's great. And yeah, this match feels almost like it was carved out of right now. Maybe even because of like they're fucking up moves or whatever, but it just kind of feels like in those moments I'm like, oh, this is like a Kota Ibushi thing, like fuck my neck, I don't care, like kind of moment. But otherwise, it's the pace fucking rocks. I was at this moment, I was like, oh, I'm in for Nitro. Yeah. This is gonna be great. I didn't know that this is the type of wrestling that WCW had.
Like at least once per show, you get this.
And,
right. And it is not this after this.
No, it is very much not this. But then shortly after the match, which again, fantastic, great kickoff, great way to kick it off. You hear Eric Bischoff saying, hey, let's take a look at a new up-and-comer we're going to have here in WCW, Sabu. What?
Crazy.
Is that who?
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was.
No, it's ECW Sabu, and like I didn't forget this, but I did forget. Like I remember when it happened. When I was like, because there was like a 2-week period where Sabu was in WCW. It's going to be great these next 2 weeks because it is. They had no idea what to do with him, how to call it. They didn't know what they were doing, and it's just a great intro to an ongoing pattern we will see in the future of Nitro, which is the only way WCW knows how to foster new talent is to essentially raid ECW and basically like all the great characters they had are ones that were developed by ECW that they just raided and gave them way more money than Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously at the time, could afford. Sure. And there was a big drama with Sabu because I think he no-showed ECW at the time, and like he was their main guy. So for him to show up on Nitro, that was kind of crazy. Like that was like the underground version of Lex Luger showing up. you know, like what?
And the next few weeks, I don't know if we're getting into the next couple episodes, but like the Sabu was Sabu.
Yeah.
On those shows.
It's so funny.
I can't wait to talk about them. Because that I did forget that he had matches.
My favorite thing about this is that I think I missed Eric Bischoff saying Sabu because then they played the package and his name does not appear. I think he maybe said it in a weird... So I don't know what a young Sabu looks like. So I was like, who's this guy? I didn't know who that guy was. They like normally in any other wrestling package, they would at least have like a graphic of the name or whatever. And Eric Bischoff also sometimes will just say a word a way that no one ever has. So maybe I maybe said it. I'm like, what was that? And then I saw a guy. Very funny. The other you brought up Lex Luger. He shows up after in the middle of this next match.
So in the middle of this, yes. So then the second match is Ric Flair versus Sting. Fun trivia note: the only match to be on both the first and last episode of WCW Monday Nitro.
Wow.
Good book ending there. And this was like so cool to watch because this was like basically like if New Japan put on Tanahashi versus Okada in their first TV show, because it's like these two have feuded, they've had incredible matches, they always deliver, and it's just so fun, like such a great little peek into that moment in time with WCW. And of course it has a shitty ending because it's WCW, which is that Arn Anderson ran in because him and Flair were feuding at the time. It was like their first ever feud.
Yes, and I talked to Jordan about that on our other wrestling show this week. That like that is, I wish that went into like Arn getting a world title final, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But instead they give you the Rick swerve, of course. But this was it was like that was unheard of. Like, oh my God, Arn has finally had enough of Rick. Are you kidding me? And it's the guys wrestling for the secondary title, which is fascinating.
That part was fascinating to me, just from an outside perspective. First off, from what I saw, the Arn saga, it seems like it's setting up the Batista Triple H type thing with Rick. I was like, oh, this is, in my head I was like, oh cool, they're doing this. This is where the Wardlow MJF, the Batista Triple H comes from. This is the original version of it. And as you just informed me now, that is not going to happen.
No, and it's done in a hilarious way that is still kind of awesome. The other piece is, I think it's extremely funny. WCW commentary do a horrible job explaining who anyone is. They don't explain shit to you. Dude, they literally, Lex Luger shows up. They do not say his name.
They go, "What's he doing here?" No one goes, "That's Lex Luger from WWF."
So they wanted to have a kind of shoot type angle here. Like, whoa, this might not supposed to be happening.
And
This
again,
might
to
be
put
real.
it into context, the day before was WWF SummerSlam where Lex Luger wrestled on a WWF show a day before. And so this was a really, really big moment.
Huge.
I feel like you would never expect, and it really set a precedent for what Nitro would be doing.
For sure. You just think that like someone would go, at least do like, is that Lex Luger? Is he allowed to be here? Someone would at least say the name. No one said his name.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't say his name. I agree.
And that comes
insane.
from Eric putting himself as a commentator. Like, you have Tony Schiavone working for the company, you know? And you choose to not, they're actively deciding to not put him on this show so that they can capitalize on Mongo being hot at the time, which Mongo, love me some Mongo. Who don't love them some Mongo? But on commentary here, you have the greatest wrestling personality of all time on commentary, maybe, in Bobby Heenan.
Mm-hmm.
And then just two guys with no chemistry together at all.
Yeah.
So hilarious.
Yeah.
I love Pepper is the dog's name? Pepe. Dude, that is, I want merch.
Yeah.
Pepe, where's the Pepe shirts? I need them.
The reason I got a Chihuahua.
I need a pullover hoodie.
All over print of Pepe's many outfits.
Yeah, dude, I need it. I love that dog. That biggest pop of the night is just when he has the dog at the end. I love it. But this was watching this match, Rick and Sting. You look at Sting, and I just cannot wrap my head around how is he not the top guy? How do you see this being? I never knew that Sting was this ripped. This is the first
that was
blonde
his thing
Sting I've ever seen.
Him and Lex, dude. Him and Lex were like, we're bodybuilders, but like, yeah, we're wrestlers too.
Yeah, they
Sting
own
is
gyms
amazing.
together. Yeah, agreed.
Sting is jumping around. He lived. I've only ever seen someone lift someone over their head once per match. That's all he does.
Yeah, he just does power moves. It's great.
He picks up Ric Flair by his penis and his testicles and drops him, and it's unbelievable. He did it 11 times.
He was the top guy, though. He was the top guy for the longest time until Hogan came, and then he was 1B kind of.
And then the U.S. title is like his, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's his title. So I don't think it was supposed to appear lesser. It was like, oh, Sting's got his belt, so it's fine. Like that, and at that time, the same with the Intercontinental Championship. It was like when Rob and I were like, this guy's the IC champion. Holy shit, he must be amazing.
He's the best worker in the company.
Yeah, that's the common thought. And Hogan getting the title is just like, oh, that's just Hogan.
Yeah,
exactly. But from an outsider's perspective, you look at Hulk Hogan and you're like, how? If I'm a new viewer and I'm looking at this, it's just like that guy. They're like the guy who looks like he plugs in amps for the Rolling Stones. That's the big guy, and you're not taking the most handsome man I've ever seen. With like, that's what the grandmas are tuning. Like, this is prime grandmas watching wrestling era.
But they
watching it with their grandkids.
Love Sting. And Sting.
They do love Sting.
Sting was number 2 to the grandmas. But at the time, we have the benefit of hindsight here. We can say, why didn't you do this? But Hogan made
the name,
money, dude.
Yeah, he had the name. He had the draw. He brought in the sponsors. It's unfortunate.
It is just truly wild that, like, you were bringing Hogan in and paying him all this money and not paying him like $1 million more to just be like, Sting's gonna beat you because he looks like that.
Yeah, nobody beat Hogan. He had it in his contract.
Right. For sure. I'm sure he did. It feels like that's the only way. Like if it wasn't for the ironclad contract, I feel like you look at those two guys and you go, okay, so the handsome guy's going to beat him in 1 month. Immediately.
I like that Sting is the handsome guy. I like that.
He ain't wrong.
He's a stunner.
Again, that's what nanas are showing up in. That's how a lot of grandkids are getting into the graps.
Yeah, Nana's creaming her knickers over Sting. Here.
Oh my!
Isn't it interesting? It's crazy how much in the Fall Brawl promos that they show how much Vader is in there.
Well,
yeah,
I want to mention this now.
There's
so
a lot
I was
to this.
There is a lot. There's a lot of drama happened this past weekend, which is actually why Lex Luger was able to show up. So Vader was a top babyface at the time, which is also just sounds ridiculous because Vader should always be a fucking heel. But I guess so. There was a TV taping the Saturday before this, and Vader showed up late. And he was supposed to be doing a photo shoot, and then Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who doubled as both a wrestler and like The Office, like he was one of the agents, was like, "Hey Vader, you got a photo shoot to do," and Vader went, "Ugh," and he's like, "Hey, stop being such a lazy fat fuck and go do your photo shoot." I'm only somewhat exaggerating. I just read this. And they apparently get into it like face to face and they start cursing at each other. And then they get into a fight and Vader takes a swing at Paul Orndorff, who was, I want to mention, in his flip-flops and allegedly wearing a towel. Like he wasn't even fully dressed. He takes a swing at him. And Paul Orndorff is one of the like toughest dudes backstage. He was like a bare knuckle fighter. He ducks and he knocks out Vader, who's like 200 pounds more than him. He like hits him with a right, which is his weak hand. He had nerve damage in his hand. He still knocks out Vader. And then the wrestlers are able to separate them. And because Vader attacked a member of the Office, he was now fired. And he had a huge contract worth $700,000. So now they have an opening of $700,000 in their budget. And while they didn't want to give it to Lex Luger before, because at the time, to be clear, everyone was like, Lex Luger's a total failure. He failed when WWE, like he never got over in WCW. When he went to WWF to try to be the new Hulk Hogan, nobody bought it. So we don't want to give Lex Luger money. But since they had just lost Vader, Vader is in this big 4-on-4 match they have at Fall Brawl. He's now fired. They have someone they need to throw in the spot. They have this big budget. So they're like, hey, Luger, do you want $700,000 to come?
That's
Did they
the
pay
reason.
him all that? Because I thought that they lowballed him and he took it.
They lowballed him initially. They wanted to give him $1,000 a week, and he wouldn't do it. He wanted guaranteed money.
Dude.
Then Vader got fired. Then they were like, "All right, we'll give you $600,000." And he's like, "Sold. Bring me to the mall." And that's how
That was a week in '95.
That was a weekend, yeah. like
That's
isn't that
good stuff.
insane?
Like guys are still getting that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm sure.
That's
But
crazy.
still, good for Lex.
That is-
Well, what's
Lex
so
had got-
Sorry,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Dude, imagine Lex didn't do this and just floundered in WWF forever. The Lex Luger
This is
character worked because of this match.
But he doesn't do. Does he do? I mean, I guess I'm
Fuck
going to
yeah,
find
dude.
out. But does he do anything of note after?
Fuck
Like this
yes.
is his moment.
Yes.
No,
He's
this
about to
is
hit his
number
most
one.
successful run. Yeah.
Lex crushes
Wild.
it, dude. There's
Wild.
gonna be a point on this show in a couple of years where you're like, Lex fucking Luger, baby, go greatest of all time.
He really does become the guy for a second. But I want to read this little snippet in the Observer because, as I mentioned, I read the Wrestling Observer the week after this just to see what the backstage gossip is. So Here, Dave Meltzer is talking about Luger being able to secure this contract, and he writes, it also continues Luger's amazing streak of earning more money in pro wrestling while accomplishing less than any wrestler in history.
Oh my God.
Luger's string of earning big money either from guaranteed contracts or incredible main event pushes based more on perceived potential than any track record appear to have run out when he and Davey Boy Smith were made into a tag team in WWF, originally groomed to capture the WWF tag team titles. But since the team failed to get over in the slightest, plans again were changed to where Smith didn't even do a major turn on Luger for fear it would hold Smith back as a potential top heel to turn on somebody that the fans didn't care about.
Oh my God.
And he still got this deal.
Brutal.
He was so
Oh my
not
God.
over.
He
but
wasn't.
And
But this did it.
It totally rejuvenated him, and it
This
made
is
him
what did it.
a
It's
top
crazy.
guy. Yeah. He
That
is a
is-
major part of the storylines in the next few weeks too. And it actually gets really, really great and interesting. It's
And
one of
then
the
it's
more
like-
unique stories they do.
It's the delivery sometimes is so wild. The segment next week. I don't know if you're recalling or if you've watched already.
I didn't watch it.
So
Yeah.
bizarre, but we'll get there.
That is so wild because to me, I was just like, who's this guy with the Seinfeld puffy shirt? I don't want to be a pirate.
It is the puffy shirt.
What the why is he wearing that? Why is he the fact that the commentary goes like, why is he here? As a viewer, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to know.
Yeah, no, seriously, like, why is he here?
He's
He
wearing the
shows
puffy
up
shirt.
and he's like,
That's his.
and then he
gear.
leaves.
That's what he wears.
like,
That's what he hits the club with, in the puffy shirt. So he wants you to think that, like, oh, he must be. This isn't part of the show. He's on his way to the club and he's stepping in.
Yeah, there's a club in the mall that he was going to.
That's right.
He's going to like get lit at Orange Julius.
Fuck yeah.
So then,
He's Pasta Mania, baby. He's gonna get the sauce all over it.
oh well, we
Speaking
do
of
see
Pasta
Pastamania
Yes,
right
we
before
do.
this, which I don't think I even remember that they did this until I saw. I kept sadly the video quality was too poor to be able to read the menu and see like what the prices were. But wow, does that look brutal? What are
crazy.
your thoughts on Pastamania? Let's hear it.
I would try it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure,
you-
certainly.
Absolutely.
But I guess apparently it's just kind of like Chef Boyardee type stuff.
Of course.
I think that just like spaghetti is since it's Colin and I talk about how sauce is the best food in the world, and since like pasta dishes are mostly sauce based, it's my favorite food in the world. It is also the funniest food of all time.
It is.
Nothing is funnier than a spaghetti. Nothing is funnier than
It's
the
like-
way Hulk
it's like
Hogan looks right
spaghetti,
now.
Whipped cream pie, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You know.
100%. I'm so surprised that Mel Blanc did not draw little animals throwing spaghetti at each other. It's would have amped it up a little bit. But if like Hulk Hogan he might be extremely popular, but he is inarguably the weirdest looking famous person in the entire world. He looks like no one in history. Hilarious. The funniest looking man in the world, like slinging the funniest food in the world, and he is just surrounded by people scarfing pasta in a mall
In honor of him.
In honor of him is one of the most unhinged things I've ever seen in my life, and I
wonder-
loved it.
I wonder if is this before or after the Foreman Grill came out? 'Cause
After.
That was
After.
This is
Definitely
this is
after.
so this is him chasing that because he
Yeah.
lost the Foreman Grill
Allegedly.
allegedly.
According to Hogan, he got the pitch
he
for
lost
the Foreman Grill.
Grill. He didn't get the callback for Metallica.
Yeah.
I
So
know
he's
that.
like, I guess I'm putting pasta in the mall.
Yeah.
So I looked it up on Google. It's actually not too bad. For $4.49, you can mix and match pasta and sauce. So your pasta options are angel hair, shells, nuggets, fettuccine,
You
penne.
say nuggets?
Nuggets. It says. I don't know
Chicken
what that-
nuggets,
Maybe those. I don't. Maybe those are like.
gnocchi.
A nugget noodle?
It says nuggets.
Dude, I'm there.
It says nuggets. And then the sauces are marinara, Alfred, best, white clam. White clam? Imagine a white clam sauce.
Imagine
for $5.
eating $5 white clam sauce in the mall.
How long did how long did this last? 2-3 months? Can you look up that info?
I can't even imagine. Let's see.
I want I want someone to like try it again. Like do you guys know the wrestler Vinny Massaro?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, one of my favorite gimmicks of all time. Do you know the spot that he does? He runs where his spot is he's in the match and a pizza gets delivered to him. Mid-match. A guy running in, bike helmet, the warmer, gives him a pizza. He doesn't pay enough for it. And then he inevitably will get body slammed into the pizza.
What a way.
It is unbelievable. Give him a pasta mania.
Agreed. Bring
Like
it back.
Fazoli's. Give him a Fazoli's sponsorship.
One chain. Just change it to Hogan branding and give it to him.
Unbelievable. It would rock.
I guess it's main event time, huh?
Well, no, hold on. We have 2 more debuts before the main event. First, Flash Norton appears, and man, you really have to be a fucking diehard to know who the hell this guy. If you were confused when Lex Luger was on screen, like I'm sure for you, Jordan, you were like, seriously, who is this guy? Because like
I don't know who this is.
They did such a poor job. So this is Scott Flash Norton, who he was like the top gaijin in Japan, the top non-Japanese in Japan at New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so they debuted him here. But the thing is, this is fucking 1995. Nobody in America watches New Japan. Well, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people watch. Like, you have
Just
to be a real...
How difficult it was alone.
You didn't even have cable.
Right.
Like,
you need to know somebody who knows somebody in Japan that will make them tapes to send to then make a copy for you. Like, it was way too hard to be into Japanese wrestling.
You were correct in saying no one watched
Nobody
Japan.
knew him. And here's this guy showing up, and Macho Man Randy Savage is like starting a feud with him. This was... Even as a fan,
crazy.
like this made no sense. It made Macho Man look like a total jabron. Like, this is fucking Macho Man. He's one of the top faces. What's he doing with this terrible promo Flash Norton, who didn't even know?
And Macho Man.
And everybody was so lost during the segment, even Eric Bischoff. And it's like, you're the one who wrote this.
I know.
It was brutal.
But Scott Norton would go on to prove himself quite.
Yeah, he's pretty tough. He's fun to watch. Throw people around.
Bastard.
I just want to say, now that we're talking about Macho Man, I really want to talk about real quick before we get into this main event. I want to talk about the Macho Man charity ad. Just them filming him saying like, just him going like, help the battle against muscular dystrophy and help out my pals. It's
so sincere. He was so into charity.
So sincere. I love him so much. It is pure chaos anytime you ask him to say something real. That is so funny.
But then also but it's so funny though, like that they're like, let's help out these kids. Let's think about these kids by going to war games, fall bro. Like listen to what you're saying, okay? Like
I was laughing so fucking hard. It's one of those things where you can tell that Macho Man has never said muscular dystrophy in his entire life.
He was looking at the script like, what's this word here?
What's going on here?
Like, he didn't. He's just was like, what's it say? Muscular dystrophy. Asked no more questions and just said it and has never ever thought about it ever again. Unbelievable.
That's a good person right there, you know? I don't know what they're battling, but I know it's serious, brother.
Yeah, look, I don't know what that is, but it sounds bad, brother.
One more debut before we get to the main event, which was the former Erwin R. Shyster, real name Mike Rotunda, father of future WWE champion Bray Wyatt. We have Michael
Money.
Wall Street was his
Michael
name.
Wall Street.
So that's
right.
this is the trend of the moment, which is that Eric Bischoff would hire a has-been WWF guy and give him a name like the non-copyright infringing version of basically the same gimmick. So it's, instead of a tax guy, he's a Wall Street guy. His name initially is Michael Wall Street. It's going to get changed to VK Wall Street, which is a rib on one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So stupid. So
And,
fucking
isn't that
stupid.
like next week?
Yeah, I didn't even remember he was Michael Wall Street initially.
Yeah.
Like I always knew him as VK Wall Street.
Was Michael Wall Street like, okay, Michael Douglas is in Wall Street?
Yeah, like that's seriously how much thought that they put into it. It's so terrible.
It sounds like a placeholder name that someone shouts out in a pitch meeting. Like, let's just it's a bad guy. Michael Wall Street. We'll change it later. Like, don't worry about it. That's what that is. And but Bischoff is like, stop. You hit oil. We got it. That's the name.
But man,
Brilliant.
IRS is like next level brilliant.
Erwin R. Shyster. I think that shit is very funny.
It's brilliant.
Michael Wall Street is so. That's the laziest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why do you act like? Do an acronym. Like
I know.
that's the game. That should be the game.
That was
he has
the
a
gimmick,
different
is
acronym.
that it was his initials were a different thing. Yeah, it was a
ATM.
government organization. Yeah.
Yeah, Adam Terrence Moneybags or whatever. Like
That is
ATM.
sold. World
Yeah.
champion right there.
I'm now seeing that before he was IRS, right before he was IRS in WCW, he was Michael Wall Street. So it's actually a throwback to his pre-IRS gimmick.
Even worse.
Yeah, even worse for sure.
Then it wasn't a spur of the
The
moment decision.
WWF were rightly like, what's his name is Michael. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a fun thing
that
for this
sucks.
character.
Yeah, and you're right.
Sucks.
Next week he's VK Wall Street, so it's only a 1 week thing.
1 week.
Oh my god.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. But now we have the main event, a main event in any country, which is, by the way, what Eric Bischoff said about Flair and Sting, which to me now is only said ironically. So the fact that he said it sincerely threw me off for a second.
Oh, that's a main event in any.
But it really is. That really was a main event in any city, in any town, any time, for sure. This, on the other hand, oof. This This is just the epitome of WCW, like how tone deaf WCW is at the moment. They put Hulk Hogan against Big Bubba Rogers as their fucking main event, and the work rate just tumbles.
And you know, this is, I remember listening that it was like Hogan just being like, oh, I've worked with him before, let's just do that.
Yeah, and they even alluded to on commentary. These guys have, which by the way, they had a really, really great steel cage match on Saturday night's main event one time where Hogan did a superplex off the top of the cage onto Big Butt, which that's a fucking crazy spot for
that's
two
crazy
fucking,
to do now.
Yeah, for 300 pounders, like that's insane.
Damn.
So, but this match was not
they didn't,
that.
do that here.
and it's just like that's Hogan was probably just like, it's first episode, brother. Let's take it easy. When Big Bubba elsewhere as the big boss man is like the big guy who can work like a little guy. Like this motherfucker knows lucha, Japanese stuff. Like he can do whatever.
He did have his working boots on too. He was running circles around Hogan when he was doing the offense. So I was impressed with that. And then of course it's WCW no finish. You get the run in from the Dungeon of Doom, which Jordan, I'm so excited to hear how you interpret Dungeon of Doom in the coming weeks, because like it's going to be like so many great bad storylines are on the way.
Dude, when Jordan gets to meet the Zodiac, like
he's already, he was here. Yeah, right.
But when he's just going, no, yes, like
it's going to be incredible. This is some of the best, worst stuff.
We're going to be talking about the Dungeon of Doom for 1 year at least.
I'm so excited because I am aware of the Dungeon of Doom because of the Eric Bischoff podcast, but only in the context of him always apologizing for it. He has only apologized. Like, the guy's asking him questions like, is this like a Dungeon of Doom ass thing? And he's like, look, I know we shouldn't. Like, I'm so excited for the only bad things I'm going to see from this. And already it starts off with just like, boy, oh boy, insensitive gimmicks just running out the back.
Yeah. I don't think he's the Shark yet, right?
I think I think that's how he returns.
Is he the Shark already?
Yeah, I believe so. It says.
Oh, God.
It says so. So yeah, Dungeon of Doom come out and they attack Hogan, and then who comes out? Lex Luger comes out to save Hogan, and now they are referring to him as Lex Luger. And
now I know.
Then they have a promo after the commercial break where Hulk Hogan in an awfully worded promo, like what he was just talking in circles. Hogan is the worst at it. Like, he is just so bad. It is the like, you're gonna see why everyone in this era hated Hogan. But they do end up setting up a world title match for next week, where I have to say, even watching with today's eyes, I was almost like, oh, I want to say, like, where are they going?
Put this on. Let's
go. Let's go. Like, I remember something, not great happened. So I'm not getting my hopes up too much. But for this immediate moment, I was like, oh, I'm in. I want to see this.
And here's the thing. This is the first episode. Next week is the first one where they're head to head against Raw, essentially.
That's right.
So
and this is the first time also Hogan and Lex Luger have never met one-on-one before. This is a bit of a dream match of like the guy versus the guy who's supposed to be replacing him. So it is kind of cool.
That is wild.
How did you feel about it?
I did not know that context for it, so I was just like, okay.
Lex
great.
Too. Lex out of the NWA and into WWF was the whole purpose was, okay, Hogan's gone. We need a new one. So Lex would drive around the country in this bus called the Lex Express that was like red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get it out.
You got to look up the music video.
You ain't going to be laughing for long. A year from now, you're going to be number one. You're going to be sitting there in the Lex Express shirt, brother.
I'm going to be riding the Lexus Press. I'm going to be like, it's the Bolt bus.
Yes. So yeah, that's hilarious. But it was like, this was an impossibility because Lex was there wherever he was to be the kind of counter Hogan of like, we have our own Hogan now. And now here they are back to back in a title match the next week. How are you not tuning in?
Again, it would have been awesome to have any of this context since it's the first episode of a show. But to me, I just watched like, man, Rob, you nailed it. Hogan sucks. He's so bad. There's literally the only signs in the crowd are like signs that say like, please get Hogan out of here. Like, no, they're just angry at Hogan in the mall with people who don't always watch wrestling. Yeah. There's a guy going like, fuck Hogan. Like, that's the sign.
Always. He was never accepted by the WCW because he was always the anti-WCW. Like Ric Flair and Sting were their guys, like you guys were saying. So it was a total corporate thing. You know, it was the first time I want to say that the crowds were kind of revolting, like the way they would in modern day against, say, like a John Cena or a Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of been erased from history, that fact, where when it comes down to the heel turn for the NWO stuff, they're like, nobody had ever seen this coming from Hogan. But in reality, like, they kind of tried it and it flopped a couple weeks from now.
Yeah. Around the Halloween Havoc. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And it's
I think, it's the next
fucking
pay-per-view, actually.
Yes, it's Fall Brawl Halloween Havoc, and God, it's ridiculous.
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch week to week because I only watched it, like I said, through their like weekly syndicated show to see.
Jordan doesn't even know about the Giants debut, Rob. He doesn't even know about the match that
this is going to be big.
precedes
Yeah, we
the
might have to
match.
watch that pay-per-view.
We're gonna watch. I'm saying this now. How this show is gonna work is if there's a pay-per-view, like the night before one of the Nitros we're gonna watch, we're just gonna mush them together.
Okay.
I love it. And here's the main reason I think that's important, and I'm not joking. And I said this to Rob before we started rolling. Most of the time, Johnny B. Bad, aka Mark Merrow, wrestles on the pay-per-views, and he opens them, and he'll have 30-minute classics with people. And Jordan, I know for a fact we're gonna watch Fall Brawl, and you're gonna be the biggest Mark Merrow fan that ever lived.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but yeah,
You're gonna see
Imagine
this
if
opener-
Little Richard was a pro wrestler and great.
Wait.
Yes. And you're gonna
I'm not
see him
exaggerating.
You're gonna finish this match. He has a 30-minute match with Brian Pillman to open the show, and you're gonna be appalled that he's not a 30-time world champion.
God, I mean, yeah, I'm so on board for that.
This is gonna
Anytime,
be fun.
like, dude, when I watch Pee Wee Christmas, I'm so excited to see Little Richard. I want to see him have a 30-minute.
Well, now you get to see Little Richard have fucking come out to the ring with 15 different gimmicks, streamers, fireworks, guns, shirt guns, valet,
Fuck yeah.
sexy valet.
Is he like? It's taboo to bring him up, but is he like the '90s Velveteen Dream kind of thing? Or
No,
Hey,
dude, think about this. Johnny B. Bad is his name, for one.
okay,
And he looks exactly like Little Richard. He's a white guy, but other than that,
But
what?
he's a dark-skinned white guy, I will
Yes,
say. Like, I had
very
no
tan.
idea he was white at the time. I totally thought, yeah, he's very, very tan.
This sounds like some Italian Christmases I've been to.
Right, yeah, I think he is Italian, actually. Yeah,
I
it's
was
totally.
Monica Mero, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So it's just I was like, it's a musician gimmick, like I am this musician, that's my gimmick. Like how
Kind of.
Velveteen
Dream is with Prince.
Like barely.
Well,
yes.
yes. In that sense, yes, for sure. Like Velveteen
Okay.
Dream to Prince is Johnny B. Bad to Little Richard.
But
Like,
he's not like physically doing anything that would like really state that. He just really looks like him.
and he's
Oh,
very
boy.
flamboyant.
And
It's
he's
great.
got a firework gun.
And so it's also kind of progressive because it's a flamboyant character who's
Big
presented as a face, as a good guy.
And everyone loves him.
Yeah, and this is in the South. This is
So over, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So hopefully we get
so
to talk about
there's
Johnny
no he just is a guy who kind of looks like Little Richard, or
yes.
is this a like Kramer was in the tanning bed too long episode of Seinfeld kind of thing?
No, they lean into the Little Richard aspect, but he's not like singing or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
He's not in like blackface or anything.
No,
No,
he's
no,
just
no.
very tan.
Okay. Everyone
You're-
is very tan, so that's
Yes,
probably
you're going
okay.
to be obsessed with him. So
Great.
can't wait to get there. And
Yeah.
on that note, that concludes episode 1 of WCW Monday Nitro.
KNITRO.
KNITRO. And
We are
Knotfest
calling it-
KNITRO.
We're calling it Knotfest KNITRO, and that's the name of the show.
I love it. Knotfest KNITRO. Thank you for joining us this week. Next week, we'll be back with Nitro episode 2.
Absolutely. Do
Very
we do
exciting.
plugs in this show or not?
The big
I don't
dream match.
Plug whatever you want. I don't know. I ain't plugging shit.
I got nothing.
We ain't plugging shit. Join
you
us
go.
next week.
Goodbye, everybody, and good night. And
We are out of time, folks. We'll see you next week.
every time. Oh my god.